my job is not to sell your contract. The GPO's job is not to sell your contract. The GPO's job is to put you in a position so that you can go sell. So if you want to be on contract, you've got to start 18 months out and having conversation. And if you want to participate in trying to drive the strategy for that category, you really need to be starting 24 months out. And even if you don't have a lot of sales, they're going to have a conversation with you. You just don't walk into the hospital system and say, great news, I'm on contract with your GPO. Dan, you made a great point. You got to ask the questions. Don't be afraid to ask the questions. What are we doing well? What are we not doing well? If you've got product issues, don't hide it. I'm pretty transparent on the financials. Listen, I hate to do this. I got to take a price increase here. And to me, the biggest gap that I always saw is
all right, well, welcome to another episode of Tuesday Talks with Toomey. We're back in studio, and I'm really excited to have you, Wes, here with us today to talk more about GPO and IDN strategy. So I welcome you, Wes Scruggs, Vice President of Corporate Accounts with AMBU. If you don't mind, just give a quick intro yourself and what you do and how you end up in this world.
Hey, Dan, thanks for the invite, and I appreciate it. I've been in healthcare now for almost 16, 17 years. My prior background is finance. I was a finance major at Clemson University, got a master's degree with a focus on corporate finance, moved into healthcare mainly by accident, and that's a different story we'll save for another day. But started at Premier in the GPO landscape, spent 10 years there, moving around between the various service lines, cardiovascular, laboratory, capital equipment, nursing, surgical services, and eventually moved into running the committed programs at Premier, the Ascend program, now I think it's called Ascend Drive, large IDN program, a Surpass program, and then had the opportunity to go run the corporate account team at AMBU 6 years ago, and took advantage of the opportunity. It's been a great time. I look forward to another 6 years at AMBU and continue to drive the company towards growth.
Yeah, thanks, Wes. Well, you've done some amazing things in the industry, on both sides of the fence, and that's why I'm really excited to kind of talk to you about your world, and as being in the GPO, and then also being in the national accounts from an industry partner standpoint. And your perspective brings, I've known you for maybe 10 years here, right?
Yeah.
And just perspective you bring has always been unique. So we talked to us today, right? I want national accounts directors to think about what's working at the GPO world. Why should I be involved with the GPO managers, right? And how do I navigate that within my own organization with my leadership, right? So we'll jump into some questions, and
Sure.
Love to get your input on these. So I'd say the biggest thing that we start with, right, is that GPO level. Like, how important is it to have a good relationship with your GPO? And what does that GPO relationship mean? Like, if you would think about who you call on the most, how often you talk to them, and how engaged are you as the VP, as well as who calls on that GPO? Can get a little dynamic there.
Yeah, Dan, the GPO marketplace is really fun to watch. As a vendor, I think it's really important to have a GPO position. It accelerates your sales process or your sales cycle. When you walk into a hospital system, whether it's the non-acute side, the acute care side, et cetera, there's so many things that go into being able to purchase a product. And what are my payment terms? What's the warranty for this product? What happens if something goes wrong? What's the indemnification language for that? What happens if you can't provide the product? What if there's a recall? How does that work? Et cetera. There's so many components that are important for a hospital so that they run with limited risk, because they have so much risk already in trying to save patient lives every day. That GPO agreement knocks all that out for you, and it really speeds up that process. And if you think about the volume of agreements that run through GPOs, it's thousands of agreements, hundreds of vendors, multiple categories. And if it wasn't for the GPO, you think about the number of resources and employees hospitals would have to match the expertise that the GPO provides, the efficiency that it provides. It'd be a big financial strain on the marketplace and the general healthcare economy, which is already strained anyway. So the GPO provides a lot of efficiency in the marketplace. I think it provides a lot of efficiency for suppliers. But on the vendor side, it's very important that you understand engagement is not a one-time you get the contract, it's a one-time engagement, and that's it. It's a really long-term process, a long-term game that requires patience, perseverance, and open communication with your GPO partners. If you don't have a GPO agreement today and you want one, it's a 3-year contract cycle in general. That process starts 18 months before a contract expires. So if you want to be on contract, you've got to start 18 months out and having conversation. And if you want to participate in trying to drive the strategy for that category, you really need to be starting 24 months out. Mm-hmm. So that's why it takes patience, it takes conversation, it takes perseverance. But it's well worth it, because once you have that contract, you've accelerated the sales cycle, as we talked about earlier. You've created a pricing strategy in the marketplace that your customers can see across the board. And you've given yourself and your sales team that opportunity to go in and be a trusted contracted vendor in the marketplace. And while many hospital systems, especially the large ones, want to go beyond the GPO agreement, you've established yourself as someone that they can trust to work with, because their GPO partner has had the faith to put you on contract. So I think there's a tremendous amount of value there, and not only from a efficiency on the hospital side, but also on the vendor side. I look at how many attorneys, how many paralegals would I need on my team to keep up with the market needs if I didn't have a GPO agreement. And it would be very expensive, more expensive than what I'm paying the GPO. I think it's a tremendous amount of value. One of your questions was, how often do we talk to the GPO? On my team, I've got someone dedicated to Premier, someone dedicated to Vizient, someone dedicated to Health Trust, someone dedicated to the Resource Group, someone dedicated to Advantage Health Partners, someone dedicated to Capstone, someone dedicated to you name it. Mm-hmm. Right? We've got someone dedicated to it. And to me, it's important that those individuals are having conversations with their GPO partners at least once a month, regardless if we're in a bid cycle or not. Where are you in the process of this category? What's your strategy going to be for this category? Because if you want to be involved in the strategy discussion, again, you have to be there 24 months before that next contract cycle, because they're making that decision on what's our strategy going to be 18 months before that expiration. You can't walk in at the 18-month mark and think, I'm going to change the strategy. The GPO is already having conversations with their committees in thinking through, what are we going to do for this category on the next cycle? What's the market doing? How do we need to adjust to fit the market dynamics? In a lot of places, it stays the same, right? Exam gloves are exam gloves. There's not going to be big changes in those areas and strategies. But if you've got physician preference items, clinical preference items, there's new competition evolving in the marketplace, you want to be involved in those discussions. They may not do what you want to do, but they're going to listen, and they're going to take your input, and they're going to drive the strategy based on the education you provide. On the flip side, you have to ask them questions. GPO partner, what are you looking to accomplish? What is your goal in the space? What is the membership telling you? What is the feedback they're providing on us as a vendor? What are we doing well? What are we not doing well? Your GPO partner is going to be perfectly comfortable telling you those pieces of information, whether it be comfortable or uncomfortable. They're going to share, because their goal is to create efficiency and success for their membership. And if they're not willing to have that conversation with you, they're not creating success, and then they're failing. And in my time at Premier, when I was on the GPO side, I was very happy to have the conversation with a vendor. Here's where you failed, and here's where you did well. Here's how you can improve. And to me, the biggest gap that I always saw, and it's why I encourage and expect my team to be talking to the GPO partner once a month at a minimum, is a supplier would come in and have a great proposal. They get a contract. 3 years goes by, I don't hear from this individual until the next contract cycle comes up. Next contract cycle comes up, and this individual sits back down across the table from me. Hey, Wes, this contract really didn't do anything for me. I didn't grow my business. Well, that's funny. I didn't hear from you over the last 2.5 years while this contract was live, and now we're back in the negotiation cycle. My job is not to sell your contract. The GPO's job is not to sell your contract. The GPO's job is to put you in a position so that you can go sell, and you still have to earn the business. And I think that's a big issue in the marketplace with vendors who really haven't had that GPO relationship before. They're really looking for the GPO to do the job for them, and that's not the case. They accelerate and make it easier, They have lots of resources that can help you. But if you're not communicating and having that discussion on a monthly basis and opening up about, hey, here's the challenges I'm facing. Here's what we're trying to accomplish in the marketplace. Here's the wins that we're having and why we're having that win. How can we replicate that in other places? If you aren't having those discussions, the GPO can't help you. And they're not going to be proactively looking to help you because they've got to move to the next contract, the next category, because every month they have products coming through that they have to put on contract, or else their membership is exposed to products they can't access or much higher pricing while the contract's being settled. So they've got a lot of responsibilities you have to think about in their day-to-day activities. And I know I just put a lot on you, Dan, off of that one question.
But it's good information.
Yeah,
I'll stop. I love that because you really hit on a lot of key things that we talk about on a lot of our talks and I see with startup companies, right? It's like, what's the value of having the GPO? Why do I want to get there, right? It definitely fast tracks that opportunity to get in front of the customers. I like how you put that, though. I've never really thought of it from that context of like taking out the administrative work on my own side. Because I think of it from a hospital always. That's why they join. Like the red lines are done, the pricing's negotiated,
correct.
All the stuff in the T's and C's are done. That's what the GPO is there for, amongst other things. But even from my own side, it helps facilitate structure and speed with my own resources. When I'm a small company and I don't have a lot of resources, they can help navigate through that. So another good reason why having a good relationship with them is when you're negotiating your contract and you have a good relationship with that contract manager, they're going to guide you and say, listen, I really need you to help me out on these terms. You can bend these terms. We'll take care of the rest, right? So that's good. How often would you say? Now you mentioned it too, in a sense that you got to be relevant, because if you're not talking to them, they're not going to just reach out and say, why aren't you here?
Correct.
But keeping on that GPO hat for a minute, do you get together and talk about the vendors that are in that category, the categories you as a group, and say, hey, who stands out, who doesn't, or what's a little bit of that, so you kind of be like, why even be relevant? Because there are other conversations that set you up for the next contract.
That 18 months before expiration, many times a committee inside the GPO is going to be looking at the category, and that GPO team is going to be pulling all the spend, not what's on contract. They're going to be pulling all the pertinent spend in that space. And they're going to have a discussion. Here are the 10 vendors in this space. These are our 3 or 4 or 5 contracted vendors in their volume. Here are the ones who are not on contract and their growth or their impact over the last 18 to 24 months in the marketplace. So, while you're looking at that as a non-contracted vendor and you want to be on an agreement, you have to be working with the GPO at the same time. You need to be relevant in the marketplace and finding customers that will adopt your product. Not holistically, you're not looking for an 80% share, but can you get 10% at a collection of hospitals so that you're showing up as a relevant player in the marketplace and you get to be a part of the conversation? Because that indicates to the GPO, hey, there's relevance here. There's enough volume in the market that the market has deemed you clinically viable. And at that point, they may invite you to participate. But at the same time, the GPOs have a bid calendar. And as an organization, it's your responsibility to be in that bid calendar and see this category is coming up. You submit your name as someone who wants to participate. And even if you don't have a lot of sales, they're going to have a conversation with you because you've submitted to a request to be included in the bid process. If you're not relevant, you may not get that far, but at least you've got your name out there. And that might be the case for some smaller vendors. The first 1 or 2 cycles that you can participate in, you may not get attention. That's not a negative.
Yeah.
It's just you're slowly building momentum. You've got to put your name out there. You've got to expose yourself. You got to let the GPO know you're interested, while at the same time you're driving that grind day to day at the local level to gain some sales, gain some revenue, gain some attention from some sites, so you can finally get to that point where the GPO goes, hey, you've been working hard for the last 6, 7, 8, 9 years. Let's bring you in and have a conversation. There may be an opportunity to change the market or at least create some more opportunity for you.
It might not even be that long, right?
It may not be.
I can talk from my own experience. I love what you say, right? But I don't think that it's that you don't get the attention. I think it's that, you might not get the award. You might not get invited to the contract, but your name's on the radar.
Correct.
Right? I can't, there's certain categories that I could tell you I lost 3 cycles in a row. And every time I was right there, and they'd be like, "You're so close. We just can't do it for X, Y, and Z reason." But they would call me immediately and say, "Hey, I know you're not on contract. I'm having a little bit of trouble. Can you help us out?"
Correct.
Right? You're starting to build that relationship over a cycle or two. And then if you got other contracts, you're building it all together in your story. And if it's your very first one, you're still trying to get in the door with them.
Correct.
They're going to remember you, and and next time you come back, right? You've got a little bit more of a story. What accounts have you won? What aggregation groups are you working with, or RPCs? And then maybe you've got local contracts there, and they're speaking for your behalf, right? So
correct.
It is a grind. Just that
It's an
GPO
absolute grind.
piece of paper isn't the ultimate award, right? That's not
No.
the prize. The prize is getting the market share and the sales and getting the support
Correct.
that it offers you, right? So yeah, you painted that beautifully. So thank you for that. So put on your AMBU hat.
Yeah.
Now, and think about if you could give an example of, working with your GPO relationship. Think about what channels have you used, whether it was the marketing teams or the RD, the field reps, or an analytical channel. But think about what maybe a channel or two that you use. So you got your GPO, now you have access to all these tools that I could say maybe 65, 70% of vendors don't even know exist because they don't go ask enough. So what are like some key channels that you've used to really reposition yourself? Okay, now I've won the award. I want to optimize this contract in the market with my IDNs. And I've used my GPO to win or keep someone out.
Right. You've got to partner with your field team heavily. And you've got to understand what is, you've got hospital system X that, let's say, is in Florida for example purposes. And that's a healthcare system that you want to drive penetration in with your new contract. You just don't walk into the hospital system and say, "Great news, I'm on contract with your GPO. I've got a great opportunity for you." They don't have time for that. You've got to really be very strategic in that process, and you've got to go to your field team and have that conversation of, "Hey, I'm looking at Hospital X. I see that we've got volume in these 4 sites. Tell me about those 4 sites. What's going on there? Is that everything? Are we a 10% player, a 20% player, a 100% player? What's the clinical support for those products? Out of those who are driving clinical support, are any of those leaders inside that hospital system who have connectivity in the corporate at the IDN level?" Great. Now there's other 5 sites we don't have any business in. Do we have any traction? What competitors are in those sites? Do you know what the viewpoint is on those from a clinical perspective? Do you know where they are from a pricing perspective? What information do you have? You need to collect all of that, build a story to then be able to go back to your healthcare system. And the best way to do it is you go through your GPO field partner. Hey, GPO field partner. They're called different things: spend advisor, regional director, analyst, whatever they are. But they're a valuable resource. They're not going to do the work for you. But if you can approach them with, "Hey, this is the information I've been informed about on Hospital X or System X. We'd love to bring a proposal to them. We believe we can drive savings. Here's what I think we can accomplish. Can you connect me with the appropriate manager at the corporate team to have that discussion?" Now you've created value for that person from the GPO field team. There may be a savings opportunity. They get credit for that. That is something that they're aiming to do. And you got to be very tactical, because if it's another contracted vendor, you have to be really careful in how they help you, because you can't give preference from one vendor over another who's on contract.
Right.
If it's a non-contracted vendor that you're going up against and you're trying to move the business from, they can help you all they want. And there's a tremendous amount of value there. If someone is on contract, "Hey, listen, I can't really influence the decision, but the person you need to talk to is so-and-so, and as a contracted vendor, I'll connect you."
Yeah.
They have to give the same courtesy to all the other contracted vendors. They're not playing preference or bias to any one over the other, but they've gotten you to the person you need to spend your time with, at least at the starting point. And by bringing them an opportunity and a general proposal and information about why this is valuable, so that they can then share it back to their partner inside the healthcare system, now they've got an easy transition, right? They don't have to create anything. They don't have to look anything up. All they're going is, "Hey, contract manager or VP supply chain or whoever it might be, so-and-so's on contract, AMBU's on contract for this category. They feel they can create a savings opportunity for you. Here's the contact to speak to. Here's some information they shared with me. Would you mind if I connected with them?"
Yeah.
And there you go. And many times they're going to help you do that because that's what they're aiming to do.
Yeah.
You've got that connection. You've started the process. You've gathered intel at the local level. You've built a story. You've used your GPO resource. You've connected to the right person. You've been very efficient in the process, and you haven't wasted anybody's time. Because that's what it comes down to. Right? Time is the most finite resource that we have. And anytime you just go in without any information and you're just asking for time with no input as to why or what you can accomplish for them, they're not going to give you that time because it's such a valuable resource. They don't have much of it, and it goes away quickly. So the more you can be focused in that perspective, the better off you are. If you want to take it to another level, and you've got deep clinical products that are really changing the outcomes of hospitals that can completely change the cost curve and really focus on that bottom line cost impact, and possibly hitting some of those measurables from Medicare. Look up their numbers. Are they getting hit with penalties from a Medicare perspective? What's driving that penalty? Was it an HAI? Is it mortality rate? What is it? And does your product drive a clinical improvement to the effect of dropping that enough so that their Medicare reimbursement penalty maybe isn't as much? Then you want to go through the consulting side of the GPOs because they're focused on those type of activities. It's a much more difficult process. It's much more lengthy. You've got to be much more buttoned up in that conversation to really drive to that type of conversation. But if you've got that type of sophistication in your system and your processes, you go through that consulting side and they can really help you tell a strong story on improving bottom line EBITDA for hospital systems, and that's where they desperately need help.
Nice. That's a very deep level too, and I can think of some companies that might be like, "Wow, how do I even get to that point?" Right? But the reality of it is, the GPO again will help guide you through that. And one of the things that's so important, and I'm sure you've seen this with your team, and then of course being on the other side there with the GPO, is every time you go, ask more questions. Ask as many questions of, hey, how do I? They'll tell you, hey, we can't really help you do that. But here's what I would do if I was in your shoes. Or, hey, we're launching a new program. You might be a good fit for this. Let me go call so-and-so or connect you with them, and you should talk to them. And then you start learning about programs that they're launching or incentives or bulk buys or anything that could be out there that the GPO is offering. That's how you learn about what's actually happening, because they're not going to promote it every day. They do at their national meetings. They do it, maybe they bring new vendors into the supplier engagement type sessions they have. But you don't see a lot of promoting of all the things that are behind the scenes. So
correct.
The contract managers, the RDs, if you get a good relationship there, they'll help bring you to the front and say, this is who you should talk to.
And Dan, you made a great point. You got to ask the questions. Don't be afraid to ask the questions. And if they can't answer, then that's fine. You're not going to hurt or offend your GPO partners by asking them questions.
Yeah.
But at the same time, don't be offended if they can't answer, because sometimes you're going to ask a question that they can't share. Yeah. I can't give you that one. Don't be upset by it. Just, okay, well, how do we work around this? What's the pathway? This is the goal I'm trying to accomplish. And not only is it asking questions, it's also being transparent with your GPO partner. If you've got product issues, don't hide it. Don't try to hope nobody sees this problem going on. Go to your GPO partner and let them know, hey, we have this problem from a product perspective, or hey, we're going to have tight inventory over the next few months, and here's why. Yeah. Let's work on this together. We'll make sure we keep everyone covered. But just so you know, in case anybody reaches out to you, hey, I'm struggling with inventory from supplier X. I don't want you to be blindsided. Those type of things go a long way in building a much stronger partnership. I know we all want to be perfect. We never want to show our flaws, but you have to be open with your GPO partner, because their responsibility, their supply chain partner for their membership, and they need to be able to ensure supply continuity for their hospital systems. And if you put that at risk, you're going to be viewed negatively. Yep. You're better off, hey, this is going on. I always encourage, and I do this with Ambu, I'm very transparent on the financials. Listen, I hate to do this. I got to take a price increase here. Here's why. Let me walk you through the financials. Right? I'm not just doing it to do it. My goal is not to drive your prices up. My goal is to maintain a viable business, so I can be a partner for you in the marketplace, so you have competitive friction, so that overall prices don't escalate 5, 6, 7, 8 times what I need to do to keep my business viable. And that's another piece I would challenge on the GPO side. They've got to be more open to, and the healthcare systems have to be more open to, is if a customer or a vendor comes to you and they need to take a price increase, don't just say no. Pull you up in the books and walk me through the financials of it. What's going on with that? Help me understand it. Help me understand why it benefits me long term. Because is there a long term benefit? Many times the answer is going to be yes, because here's why. I need to put more in R&D. I need to develop the next iteration of the product. Because this is the other piece I would challenge our IDN partners and healthcare partners on, and remembering is your partner in innovation is the vendor community. Right? The healthcare marketplace is unfortunately designed to be a 2%, 3% marginal business as a healthcare provider. Their vendors are doing hopefully somewhere around 15 to 20%. They're the ones who are taking money and investing in innovation and research and moving forward to bring out products that lower your HAI rates, lower your mortality rates, lower your readmission rates, so that you're improving on that bottom line perspective. So that's the other question you got to ask. I get it. You're doing a price increase. Let's work through the financials. Now, what are you doing with these margins? Where's that money going?
Yeah.
Is it going back into R&D? Is it going back into innovation? Is it going into manufacturing so that you can increase capacity, create continuity plans, contingency planning, et cetera? Or are you just trying to make better profit? Right? And your vendor needs to be transparent about that. And if they're not, then that's when you need to be really, as the IDN, you start questioning them pretty hard.
Yeah. You nailed it. I've had conversations both at the GPO, IDN corporate level, but also even with physicians one-on-one, complaining like, oh, just price increase. Everybody doesn't make more money. And I said, well, let's talk about that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if I were to say, I'm taking a 30% price increase in labor, I'm taking, border taxes at the time were going up, containers were up, all of a sudden I can't put my money into having enough folks at the warehouse or at the manufacturing plant. Like that takes out, like, where are we going to cut, right? So what's, supply and demand could hurt. Start thinking about all these things, that add up to that 5% price increase I'm trying to get. Hey, I could charge 30 or 40% because I need it, but I'm only asking for 5. And they were just, just like, wow, no one's ever explained it like that.
Correct.
Like, be transparent. You nailed
Correct.
it. Open those doors and have the communications of why we're doing it, where the impact is. And sometimes you can't share everything, but really nail the big bullet points of, look, this is the impact that I'm taking. This is what I'm asking. I know it's not easy on you, but you're going to keep getting consistent quality products, consistent quality of like a partnership and, attentiveness of a rep and all those things that have to happen to keep your products going into the OR and keeping the patient safe, right?
I mean, when you talk about labor, one of the most amazing dynamics that I watched during the COVID process is I was working with one of the large distributor partners, and they're looking for staff for their distribution center, and this is 2021. COVID's hit, wages are going up in certain areas where it didn't make sense, but it happened, and they're looking for workers. He said, I was driving through a Burger King, and the person on the box and then at the window was so impressive, I offered them a job to come work in my distribution center.
Wow.
And the guy said, well, how much are you going to pay? $20 an hour. I make more than that here. I don't want to deal with the stress of that. I'm good. Right? So you think about that, and you look at your SPD department where that's it's low level from a pay perspective. It's not low level from an importance perspective. Their rate of pay is now competing with Burger King, McDonald's, Walmart. Your ability to keep staff in those type of areas where you've had a low level of pay on a per hourly rate historically, that's going up. And that's a challenge for vendors as well. It's no different. And you have to look at as a healthcare system, what challenges am I facing from a labor perspective? Outside of the clinicians is a unique marketplace. The vendor community doesn't usually have clinicians and physicians on staff at a very limited level. But when you start looking at your operational team, those who keep the hospital going on a day-to-day basis, and you look at the labor costs and challenges you're having there from a competitive standpoint, you got to start thinking about, this isn't unique to me. Yeah. My vendor partners are going through the exact same thing. How are they dealing with it? And that's another part where we have to have transparency. And I challenge the healthcare systems, be transparent in those challenges. Where are you hurting? What's making it difficult for you to operate effectively? What's going on with your bottom line from an EBITDA perspective? What's the biggest things driving it down? Is it labor cost? Is it supply cost? Is it inefficiencies in your system? Is it reimbursement penalties? What's driving that? Mm-hmm. And I challenge my team all the time. When you go sit down at the corporate level with a healthcare system, you need to ask those questions before you open up anything about our organization and what we're doing and what you're trying to talk to them about. You need to understand where they are first.
Yes.
Every single time. Even if you had that discussion a month ago, just make sure nothing's changed. What are the top directives or top goals for your executive team? What are they looking to accomplish the next 12 months, 36 months, 5 years?
Yeah.
How is that flowing down to your part of the organization? What parts have you specifically been held responsible for? What are your expectations of vendors to help you accomplish that? What vendors are doing a great job at helping you accomplish that? How are they doing that? What vendors are not doing a good job? Why? I want to avoid what's not working for you and move towards what is working for you. And maybe in that conversation, you find out there's nothing we've got going on that can really help them. And listen, I'd love to help you. I don't have anything specifically that's going to drive towards those 2 or 3 initiatives that you have right now. But thank you for sharing with me. And as I think about this, if something does come up, I'll bring it back to you to see if I can help you accomplish your goals. Now let me tell you about our organization, what we're trying to accomplish, and maybe we can find some common ground. But more than likely, whatever those top initiatives are, we're going to have something that can help them drive towards success. Hey, I can help you move towards this goal a little bit. Let me share with you why. Let me share with you how. I want to see if it's a good fit. And when you engage with a hospital system that way, and again, it comes down to that transparency both ways, you can create some tremendous wins for both parties that are significant for patient care, significant for their community, and significant for your organization. And I think that's how we have to operate. That's how I challenge my team to operate. And you mentioned earlier doing good things in the industry. It's the way I operated at Premier. Mm-hmm. I know you and I work together. It's very much how we work together. Yeah. Here's what's going on with my organization. Here's what's going on with your organization. Let's find common ground. And I challenge people at the GPO level, when you negotiate, just don't push for, I need this, I need this. Right. Ask the question, hey, what's important to you as an organization? What do you consider success? What drives it? What behaviors help you be successful as an organization? Yeah. I might not be able to put it in the contract for you, but at least it gives me an idea of where you're coming from. And so I think that's where the biggest development could be from the GPO side is much more openness and transparency. And just like you need to ask questions as a vendor, the GPO needs to be asking questions on how's your business operate? Yeah. What's your business model? Where do you I know they ask these, where do you manufacture? But then down to what really creates success for you? Yeah. What behaviors at the hospital level drive your business, can help you be successful? Can we put that in a contract position somehow? I wrote some really cool contracts by asking just that one question. What behaviors are you looking for out of customers? Yeah. We can put that in a contract. We can do that. I don't think that's too far-fetched. That sounds reasonable. Let's write the contract that way.
You nailed. You don't have to always be so rigid in the contract. Right. The contract is there as a framework, but you can change it. You can redline it within reason, but you get creative, whether it's at the GPO or a subset of the IDN of like, well, here's why we're going to create this other contract for you, right? And we can use the parameters of the GPO to keep the T's and C's in line, but we're gonna venture out and add some other things for just that facility or that health system because now you've opened a door to so many things that they need. There's definitely a great strategic accounts 101 there. Always lead that conversation with questions about the facility, what their goals are, what their savings need to be, who's going to be in charge, who's going to benefit from it, and start building up your story because, like you said, you were invited there for a reason. Like they said, yes, why don't you come in and talk? So there's going to be a common ground of yes, we're going to have this conversation about a category, a back order, another vendor's issue, whatever it may be. But if you can start learning on how they tick. Yeah. Right? What motivates that contract manager? How that contracting team is I mean, I say all the time. I would ask is one that like, how do you get a bonus? Like, do you get a bonus if you save $500,000, or do you get a bonus if your whole team saves $50 million? Right. I can't save you the whole thing, but if I can help you chip away at some creative ways.
If I get you 2% of it, would that matter?
Would that help? Now we're starting, right? Yeah. But now we start talking about other things that we can do as a company, and a strategy that we're willing to do and be on the same page versus. I'm here to sell you this one widget. I got to get a contract for this one widget.
Right.
And then when are you ready? I'm like, well,
Yeah.
that's not what I want right now.
Correct.
So I'll do we have MedBridge offers like kind of a good checklist of like upfront questions to ask before you even get there to help
Yes.
strategize that. And then we really try to motivate our clients to start asking that and then get into here's the framework of all the normal contracting stuff, right? But it's a great way to just kind of be ready and train your team to think bigger, think more strategic, and think about the customer first versus the company first.
Well, and I'm hoping everybody does, but most importantly, it shows you care.
Yeah.
Because I think ultimately in this business, in what we do, you have to care. And if you don't care, you're not going to be successful. It's really hard to win if you don't care. And so, if you walk in with a philosophy and a mindset of, I care about the patients in this community. I care about those who work in this hospital. I care about the good that they're doing in this community. How do I help them? If you walk in with that mindset, you're going to walk away feeling good. You may not even get a contract. You may not get $1 of business. But if you keep that mindset and that's the way you walk in and you focus that way, you're going to build a good rapport. They're going to understand you as a vendor who cares and is there to support them and not someone who's just looking to make $1.
Yeah.
And that's what's important.
Yeah. Being a good partner, taking care of the patient.
Correct.
Right? So, well, Wes, you've given an unbelievable amount of information around GPO, relationships, engagement, where to begin. Why even do I want to have a GPO? And I can't thank you enough for giving both sides of the fence of how you've worked with vendors, and then of course now you're on the dark side with the vendor side, right? But you have a different perspective of how important it is to be there, and what's the right thing to do. So I appreciate your time today. I thank you for coming on to Tuesday Talks with Toomey. I think it's been very informative for everybody. And I look forward to doing this again with you real soon.
Hey, Dan, it was a lot of fun. Thank you for the opportunity. As always, I have to give a shout out to my Clemson Tigers. Go Tigers. But thank you for the time, Dan. I really appreciate it. And let me know if I can do anything ever to help you. And I'm happy to come back anytime.
Excellent. Thanks, man.
Thanks.